Welcome back to my channel. I'm A.K. Mulford, a full-time author and part-time chaos gremlin, sharing with you behind-the-scenes author life and helpful but unhinged writing advice. And today I'm breaking down everything that I've been reading, writing, and watching over the month of September. Now, as a full-time storyteller, I feel that consuming stories is very important to my job. If you're going to be writing lots of stories, which I do, you also need to be consuming lots of storytelling content as well, in all sorts of different forms, not just books, but podcasts and movies and TV shows and all sorts of different types of storytelling. Consuming stories in many and varied genres, I feel like, is very important to my craft and expanding my understanding of storytelling. And while everything that I read is for enjoyment, it's also for market research. Maybe I discover a new word or a new plot device or something interesting that helps me kind of expand my knowledge and hone my craft. If you're familiar with the Clifton strengths, I am number one input. So I need a lot of input to create a lot of output. And so for me, I like to do that across lots of different things. And I feel this is a really important skill for authors to have, and that is being able to both enjoy content, but then also dissect it. Why does this story work? What are the things I like about it? What are the things I don't like about it? And then even more importantly, I think, is understanding why other people might like something, even if you don't like it. I see a lot of newer writers, especially, saying like, this book shouldn't be popular, or this movie shouldn't be popular, or this song shouldn't be popular. And that's not really helpful to you. It's asking, why is it popular? What audience is it hitting? What things is it delivering right for the people that are enjoying it? So through that lens, sometimes I'll pick books or shows or things that I'm not really necessarily that interested in myself from a genre perspective, but I like to read them anyway just to figure out like, okay, this is a really popular book right now. What is it about this book that's captivating an audience? What is it about it that is resonating with people? What can I learn from this? Even if it's not something that I would necessarily write. And so in that vein, I thought I would share with you all of the things that I'm consuming and all of the things that I'm creating over the month of September, and break down maybe some of the things that I got out of them as well. So I've read 5 books in the month of September. I used to read more books per month, but I struggle with the time, and also because I'm spending all day reading my own writing. At the end of the day, usually I do more audiobooks than physical books or ebooks because I get eye strain from like staring at a page for too long. And I find it just kind of works in my brain in a different way. It's like a different modality to consume the story in. And then it has like a really nice separation for me where it doesn't bleed into my writing in any way, where I'm consuming it more objectively. And also it means that, you know, for me, I homeschool 2 kids as well as work full-time as an author. It's definitely a benefit as well because it means that I can do it while I'm cooking or walking the dog or running around, folding laundry, all of the other things. So I've read 5 books this month. The first book was N.K. Jemisin's The Fifth Season. This was such a delicious book. It scratched all of the fantasy itches in my brain. It was epic world building, a story told with like time jumps and lots of different areas and lands, and it's like a really compelling magic system, and the world building was so rich. And so I really enjoyed that from like an epic fantasy perspective. But then after I finished reading that, I wanted to jump into something a little bit like lighter and I could read quickly and was a little bit more feel good. So after that, I read Emily Henry's Funny Story. I read that one really quickly. That's just like classic feel good romance. I really like Emily Henry's narrator. I feel like I follow her across all of her books because she just has a way of narrating that I really enjoy. And then I wanted to do some of my kind of more market researchy books where I pick a book that's been in the top 100 of Amazon for a while and is outside my genre and not something that I'm kind of like in the world of, just to see what it's about and see what it is about it that people are really enjoying. So this month I picked Freida McFadden's The Housemaid. I've seen the cover a million times, but I just knew nothing about it. That ended up being a really great thriller. I read it in like a day. The whole time I felt like I was having like an anxiety attack. The whole thing was very like, why is there a door with a lock on the outside? You know, like the whole time I was reading it just going like, oh no, like girl, what are you doing? Get out of there. But that's great. Like that's what the author wants you to feel. And also I feel like the ending of that book had several buttons on it in like closing brackets of concluding threads that were pulled. If you read the book, you'll know what I mean. But there was lots of setups that had rewarding payoffs in the end. And I feel like that is really good for satisfying endings. It's not really a genre I read a lot in, so it was interesting to see, and I totally get why people have really enjoyed it. It kind of has this like addictive, fast-paced, thrillery quality to it. And then I was ready to jump back into romance, and I wanted to like do something that was a little bit more in my genre, so I read Ali Hazelwood's Deep End. I have a confession to make about this. So I don't know why, but my co-author Kale Morrison and I, we write the Maple Hollow series together. We both thought this book was about a merman. I think it's because Ali Hazelwood wrote Bride, which is paranormal, and then this came out and we were like, it's another paranormal book. I don't know what happened. Like the cover is just a hand in the water, so it's narrow enough that it could be that. Maybe that the cover just conveyed something mermanish about it. But I digress. It is not a book about spoilers. It is not a book about mermen. And I swear I got like 50% of the way through, 70% of the way through, and I'm like, any minute now, this guy's gonna turn into a merman. But it was still a really enjoyable read without the paranormal element. But I kind of picked it up thinking, because we write cozy paranormal books with Spice, we were going for like a paranormal rom-com to read. But it is not paranormal. And that's a classic example of like going in blind to a new book, is that sometimes these things happen. But yeah, really, really enjoyable book. I think it hit all of the like romantic beats and character wounds really well. This is the first book by Ali Hazelwood that I've read, and I definitely think I will pursue more because it was like a nice lightweight read compared to like the world building density of some fantasy books. So nice to hop in between. And then the last book that I read in September, I'm still reading, I'm about 70% of the way through so far, is Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. And this is just because I've seen it around a bunch, and I know a movie's coming out next year. My assistant read it and was like, if you're going to see the movie, read the book first, you know, classic. This kind of book isn't necessarily in my wheelhouse or something that I would read a lot of. Kind of going into it with more of that like analytical storytelling mindset. And it's been interesting for me actually. Like it feels a lot like when you have a friend who has like a special interest in something. Feels a little bit like that, or like the narrator's just like info dumping his special interest in the sciences to you a little bit. I still want to know what happens. Like, do I think that it could be half the length and thought would be even more propulsive and compelling? Probably. But I think that the audience that this book is right for really enjoys all of that. So I'm still finding the plot incredibly compelling, so I'm enjoying it. So those are the books I've been reading, and I feel like they've been really helping me be aware of what's going on in the market and general what readers are reading. But also every book I read, I get something out of. I get something that like helps me go like, oh, that's an interesting plot device, or I like the way that they do this thing. Even if I don't like the book on the whole, there will be things and elements about it that I can still use to help elevate my own craft. That's what I've been reading this month. So moving along to writing, I've been writing two different things this month. The first half of the month, I've been working on a brand new paranormal rom-com with my co-author Kale Morrison. This is a brand new book in a brand new world for us, and it's longer than our other books. Our other books are around 50K. They're kind of bite-sized. This one's around 80K. It's definitely longer. It has both like a mystery element and a sapphic romance in it. And so it's been really interesting because we're weaving three different point of view characters, both the couple and a third person, into the story to tell the mystery properly as well as propel the romance forward. And so it's been an interesting balance, trying to balance both romance and the mystery of it and make sure that we're doing a service to both. So I've been doing a lot of revisions on that for the first half of the month, and then I passed that in to my co-author. And now I'm doing a final revisions pass of Hold Your Horses, which is a fifth book in my Zookeeper rom-com series. And this has been a really interesting one because both of the main characters in this book are ace. And so this book doesn't have any spice in it, but I wanted to make sure that it was still like a really swoon-worthy romance. And I wanted to do the story justice and make sure that it was equally beloved to the rest of the books in the series. The whole series follows a big family of zookeepers. It's kind of like Zookeeper Bridgerton in a way, where like this big family, they run a family-run zoo, and each sibling gets a story, and they all have their own romances. And so we're on to the 5th book now that follows Heron, who's a non-binary sibling and is the Savannah hoofstock keeper, and a newcomer to the zoo, Hollis, who is there for the summer as an intern. And she arrives at the zoo lying about being like a horse rancher from Wyoming. Because she's just decided to on a whim, and also to distance herself from her family, which she learned more about, but she knows nothing about horses. And then, of course, shenanigans ensue. But I've been really loving their love story. It's just been really adorable to see it kind of unfurl and things like that. And I hope that people who've read the series, you know, this is the 5th book, so by the time they get to this book, hopefully they'll know what they're going to get out of the series as far as the feels go, and all of the like funny animal shenanigans that happen. So I'm hopeful that that will hit the way that I want to with the readership of the Prickle Island Zoo series. So those are the 2 things I've been writing this month. And now on to watching. If you thought the reading list was chaotic, the watching list is even more so. I've been all over the place. First, I've jumped into my K-drama era. I feel like I've been dancing around this world for a long time, but it's finally hit. I feel like it's this whole undiscovered area for me of like new great stories. If you're into K-dramas, please let me know ones that I should watch in the comments. The one that I watched this month that I am completely in love with is called The Potato Lab. I found myself like giggling and like giddy so many times with this. It is like the classic rom-com. All the rom-com tropes are in it. Like the romance is great, but also just the whole cast of characters in this lab, the research team, is so hilarious. Like all of the characters just have the comedy beats down, and all of the shenanigans they get up to are just, it's so funny. I really, really enjoyed it. And it feels almost like a kind of like The Office Parks and Rec meets like a swoon-worthy romance. And I just really enjoyed the whole thing. It felt very in the wheelhouse of my rom-coms, of like this funny town cast of characters, big personalities, but then also the romance is really like sweet and funny and has a lot of heart. Totally random that I stumbled across that, but I really, really enjoyed it. So if you've watched it, let me know. And if you have any recs, let me know as well. We are slowly working our way through watching Ted Lasso. We're on season 3 now. So my partner and I try and watch an episode a couple times a week. I know we're very late to the party when it comes to Ted Lasso. Everybody's been talking about it forever, but I've been really enjoying it. I feel like there's some really interesting character arcs that they're doing, especially with like the character of Nate, season upon season, that I find like really interesting. Like, you know, when you're trying to figure out like the characters that you're rooting for and the characters that you hate, I feel like they do that in a really interesting way. The banter is just, of course, top notch, like the witty, quick back and forth, the kind of staccato of the dialogue and all of the jokes and quips and things like that. So I definitely feel like I get a lot out of it from a storytelling perspective as well. It's definitely one of those shows where they kind of lead you to certain conclusions and things. So there's a lot of us sitting there as we're watching being like, oh, he's going to do this, she's going to do that, making predictions about things. And it's been really fun to see when we're right and when we're wrong. And then I've also been watching the latest Dimension 20 Dungeons and Dragons campaign, Cloudward Ho, and that's been really fun to watch. Talk about like different kind of storytelling. The Dungeon Master creates all this world building, but then has to pivot based on dice rolls and things like that. And I find it really interesting as someone who's a storyteller. Like I find it incredibly skilled to be able to jump in and pivot your storyline like that. I find that kind of improvisation really interesting. So yeah, and also it's just funny and hilarious. But I love the collaborative world building that happens in D&D campaigns, and it feels a lot like co-authoring in a way. So yeah, so I really enjoy that. And it also just like scratches the fantasy itch in my brain when I'm working on fantasy books without influencing my fantasy stories too much, because D&D is so different than writing fiction. And then of course I've also been watching lots of YouTube videos. I love watching YouTube videos. I love watching podcasts on YouTube. I really like watching different interviews. I feel like as authors, we kind of collect people and personalities. We can find something interesting about everyone. We're kind of like researchers of humanity and personality and things like that. And so I really enjoy seeing people like vlogging and doing podcast interviews and different things like that, because it kind of helps me understand different people and different points of view and different personalities and different senses of humor, different countries and cultures and things like that. And so I feel like the more of that I consume, the better of a service I can do to my characters and the worlds that I create. And so yeah, let me know what you've been reading, writing, and watching in the comments. I'd love to hear all of the stories that you're consuming and creating. If you enjoyed this video, let me know, because I think I might try and do like a monthly wrap up of all of the different books I'm reading and stories I'm consuming. And yeah, until next time, happy writing, friends!